Welcome to another interview in our FM Expert series. Today I'm joined by Mike Green. Hi Mike, how are you doing?
Good afternoon.
Good to see you. Mike is the Managing Director at Mike Green Consultancy and also Chair at TEMA. And I should say TEMA stands for Technology Enabled Maintenance Association, which Mike is going to talk about at the end of this chat. And Mike, you're going to be talking to us about some of the emerging technology in FM, which I think is going to be a very timely chat, to be honest. So I'm going to hand over to you. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much, Beth. I'd like to try and look at the different areas that the new technology is emerging into, what's being developed, how it's being taken up or not, as the case may be, because that's quite a big part of the discussion. And look at perhaps how some of the companies that we all work for, you included, Beth, be perhaps encouraged to take up the technology.
Okay.
So first of all, I'd like to look at where we are today. And perhaps how the pandemic has actually brought that forward somewhat. At the moment, we're at a crossroads in the building services industry, particularly, and the wider FM market with technology. What we used to do very much manually, with the help of perhaps spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations, we can now do with technology. We can download data, we can have it analysed for us by artificial intelligence, analytical software. We can use IoT to gather that data, and we can use virtual reality to display some of what we find to our clients. The misconception seems to be that this comes at an enormous cost. It's technology, so it must be costly. This isn't really the case, because in most cases today, there is a payback on it. And in the greater, wider FM environment, the data is actually becoming a revenue stream that can be tapped into and shared even by the FM contractor and the client themselves.
So right, when you say revenue stream, give us an example of how that would work.
If you take the big tech giants like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Facebook, etc., Intel, they have a thirst for data in every industry imaginable. I mean, it's already been discussed about how potentially some of those organisations may have influenced elections in different countries. And they've done that with data that they've collected either themselves or they've purchased from other areas. The use of the data that we provide for these people doesn't have to be used for underhand operations. It can be used to resell new data, new software that can run our buildings better. So if collaboratively as an industry, we can gather data on footfall, the way people use certain areas of buildings, the times they use them, the nationalities that those people are that use those areas at that time, so that we can create demographics of people and the way they use buildings and what they do, we can start to look at the way we build buildings or refit buildings to make them more efficient for the people that use them. So for instance, dwell times at coffee points or water points. Sometimes you get certain types of individual that will dwell longer because they'll chat to their friends or whatever, and others that won't, because they'll just go there, get their drink, go straight back to their desk. Well, we all know that happens, and you can kind of generalize about it. But if you had data on it to say that, you know, perhaps Asian Pacific people didn't do it so much to Western people that were considered to be non-European, so American or perhaps South American even, yet European perhaps dwelled for some time in the middle of that time, you could sell that back to someone like Microsoft or Intel as a revenue stream from your building. So all of a sudden you've captured data they can use. They're not going to just use it for that as well, believe me. They'll use it in all sorts of other things as well. But it becomes a revenue stream. Equally, on the flip side, it can become a revenue stream to the business if it can save you energy. So on one side, you've got a resell of the data, and on the other side, you've got a use of the data that will determine how you use your energy responsibly.
Yeah.
I don't just mean cutting down the energy costs. Anybody can switch lights off, but using it responsibly. So, you know, you can buy better, you can install better and more efficient equipment. You can use it, of course, better. That's the end goal. You use it better and more sensibly. And at the end of the day, you buy and use energy and emit the least amount of emissions possible. So,
do you see this though as being, when do you see people doing, I'm sure obviously some people will be doing it already, but in terms of our wider profession, with your experience, when do you think people would start being comfortable to adopt some of this stuff, particularly the selling of data?
well, like you say, some people are doing it already, but they're doing it in bits and pieces. Nobody's joining it up.
Yeah.
The new technology that's coming along will enable us to join it up. The IoT especially is our enabler. That's our glue, if you like.
Yeah, and for anyone watching, IoT, Internet of Things.
Yes, exactly.
We're full of acronyms, aren't we, FM? So
we are, yes.
Using another one.
Yeah, I'll throw a few in later on. You can keep catching me out on them. But the IoT is like our glue, if you like, and that enables your lifts to talk to the fire system to talk to the BMS system, your footfall and access system to talk to the security system, and the whole lot to be able to talk to one another. But what it does is it gets funneled. The data from that gets funneled, if you do it properly, into a central repository, probably in the cloud, where there is analytical software that we can use. It comes at a purchase price, but there is a return on investment. That analytical software can make decisions for you with machine learning in seconds that it would take a committee 3 to 4 months to work out.
Yeah.
And you think about it, you know, a committee of people meeting once a week, and the cost of that.
Yeah, and I think the thing that will prick people's ears up is return on investment, because that's what we should be thinking about at every point anyway.
It's the absolute, you know, what's that big fence at Aintree? You know, that's the one that everybody's, you know, has trouble getting over. The return on investment hurdle.
Yeah.
It's just, sometimes it's impossible, because before you've even sat down and spoken to somebody, they cross their arms.
Yeah.
You know, they're not interested. I'm not buying this because it's going to cost me money and I'm not going to get my money back. And they don't want to listen. They've got their fingers in their ears. And it's quite embarrassing, actually, because you then try to explain it to them and they're not listening. They don't want to know. Yeah. It needs, first of all, an open mind.
Yeah.
If you've got an open mind that's listening to you, then you can get that return on investment over. And there are companies out there today selling equipment that, well, they're not actually selling it. What they're doing is they're giving it to you. Install it at no cost.
Yeah.
If it doesn't save you any money, we'll take it out.
Yeah, because they know it will
save you money. We'll share some of that money, and that share will pay for the installation of the equipment.
Yeah.
Once you get started on that road, I'm sorry to use this analogy, but it's a bit like an addict. You suddenly realise that actually there isn't a cost to it, and it is actually making a better performance on your bottom line.
Yeah.
So if a pub has to sell every pint of beer it sells to make a profit, and then somebody suddenly offers them a way of making their bottom line better without selling another pint of beer, they're going to take it, aren't they? Right, it's the same idea. Or they might be in insurance, they might be stockbrokers, they might be medical health suppliers. But if you can improve their bottom line without doing a stroke of work more that they do for their core business, that's surely got to have a good sell point to it.
So we're talking about what is emerging, why it's emerging, and what the opportunities are. I mean, I think you're whetting people's appetite for sure here. What are some of the kind of tangible things that people can do that they can take away?
I would say that at the moment, if people want to have a go, concentrate on energy management. Simply because the minute they start to reduce their carbon emissions and their energy use, they will reduce their outgoings, therefore improve their bottom line, but they'll be ticking all the CSR boxes as they go.
Yeah.
And those two boxes, those two elements, sorry, in today's market are probably in the top 5 of board topic matters, aside from pure business.
Yeah, yeah.
So energy's got to be it's got to be the way in. It's got to be, you know, if you want to have a go, it's the most obvious one.
Okay.
There are other ways, but you'll still get the return on investment, but it won't be as important to the business as that. So that kind of, there's also consequences to not doing anything as well.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't ever be overlooked. The consequences of not doing anything are likely to be very soon much tighter legislation on smaller companies on their energy use.
Well, and also, Mike, you know, we're now going to be in a very even more competitive market with buildings and encouraging people to use buildings because of what's been going on with COVID. So I think now is the time absolutely to be looking at some of these things, isn't it?
It's becoming quite common, and you've probably seen this as well, that in tenders, client organisations put in their tender specifications that you must have either certain accreditations, yeah, or certain zero carbon targets to do business with them.
Yeah. Well, so, it's often in the PQQ, then it's a deal breaker.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't have that, you're precluded from the opportunity. Yeah. So there's another consequence for you.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, we're at 11 minutes. Can you believe that? Is there what can we squeeze in else? Because I mean, I think genuinely we could talk for probably 2 hours and you'd still have so much content.
Well, as I've got no time left, I would suggest that if anybody's really interested in getting involved in this subject matter, I'm launching the Technology Enabled Maintenance Association as part of BESA in October.
BESA, sorry, Mike, I'm interrupting you.
Building Engineering Services Association.
Okay.
Which is a trade organisation for, what it says on the tin, building engineering services.
Yeah.
But I'm launching TEMA in October, and memberships will be available probably straight away. But you'll certainly be able to read in October via the BESA website what that will entail, what you'll get for your membership, and what we'll be doing about new technology and disseminating the information to a wider audience.
Okay, and I think in the meantime, because obviously this is an area that you are obviously hugely involved with, even just to follow on LinkedIn, because I'm assuming you're posting relevant bits of, you know, it will help people keep up to date.
Yes,
okay.
I am a LinkedIn file.
Okay, well, listen, it's an area we can't avoid. However much we want to keep things the same, things are not the same at the moment, and they're not going to stay the same, and things will be moving faster than ever. So I think this has been a very useful starting point. And it'd be interesting to have another conversation later in the year, actually, wouldn't it? Just to see how things have already changed, because I bet you...
It would actually, yeah, because as I said, you know, 20 years is a long time in our industry. These days we're measuring things in weeks, not years.
Yeah, yeah, it's exciting. A bit scary, but exciting.
It is, yeah.
All right, Mike, listen, for now, I'm going to say thank you. Thank you very much for your time. And
thanks for the opportunity.
Well, no, brilliant. Thanks so much. Take care.
Cheers, bye.